Good morning. This is the Stuyvesant Square Consultancy's review of second quarter 2016 GDP. Each of the categories, as you can see, are here. The government consumption expenditures, net exports, NEX, gross domestic investment, and personal consumption expenditures. As usual, we show these in gold for the current quarter, red for the quarter immediately before this quarter, and blue for the quarter that of the prior year, so of the comparable quarter of the prior year. So as you can see, government consumption expenditures decreased, net exports increased slightly. Gross domestic investment is down, something that we've seen for quite some time. And as usual, the big rescue of the GDP, as usual, is personal consumption expenditures. Here's a breakdown of personal consumption expenditures by segment for the quarter, the prior quarter, and the comparable quarter last year. You'll see that services increased, non-durable goods. Here's the slide showing the change in gross domestic investment, which is the category of GDP which is most drawing down GDP growth. There was a significant decrease, as you can see, almost 1.25% based on this scale here at the bottom, of change in private inventories, and fixed investment also decreased about another 0.5%. So overall, there was about a 1.75% decrease in gross domestic investment. Here's the chart of changes in government consumption expenditures. State and local expenses, as you can see, are down. Non-defense spending, it had increased at the federal level, presumably, and defense spending had decreased. This is the change in household consumption services, which is an element of personal consumption expenditures. This is how Americans are spending their money. They're spending it on other services, somewhat on financial services and insurance, food services and accommodations, excuse me, and not too much on recreational services, quite a bit, again, as usual, on healthcare, and quite a bit again on housing and utilities. This is the change in consumer durables. Again, this is the charts are showing increases in durable goods, recreational goods, and vehicles, which always seems to be very strong in pretty much every quarter. These are things that people are buying, sporting equipment for their children, recreational vehicles, four-wheelers, motorcycles, etc. Those seem to be recession-proof. Likewise, furnishing and durable goods, household equipment is here, and motor vehicle parts, vehicles and parts are increasing. We had a strong decrease in the first quarter last year, or first quarter of 2016. This is the change in consumer non-durables. This would be, well, for example, food and beverages for takeout, clothing and footwear, gasoline and other energy goods, and other non-durable goods, paper products, foodstuffs, etc., etc. Let's look at the imports first, which are across the top line, across this area here. you'll see that the imports of services decreased somewhat. The imports of goods here increased somewhat. Exports of services decreased, and our exports of goods increased. This includes big, massive exports of aircraft out of the Boeing plant out in Washington State. So it's not really indicative of a healthy U.S. export economy, although we do export other things besides airplanes. But the airplanes are a big part of this. That completes our review of the 2016 second quarter GDP. We'll be back with the employment figures and, of course, the report on third quarter GDP. Take care.